Welcome to Crossroads Callings. I am your host, Chimere Brown, and this is the podcast dedicated to navigating life's pivots and discovering a pathway to true purpose and calling. My guest today is an operations strategist, mother, entrepreneur that serves as a thought partner for women-owned businesses. Lena Ryals is here from New Jersey. I am so excited to have her. But she has spent 22 years in corporate America up until about 6 years ago, where she took the faith-filled step of moving into business for herself for clarity, purpose, and operational support. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited that you're here.
I am too.
I really appreciate kind of the nature of your story, mainly because so many people are beginning to forge their own paths.
Mm-hmm.
And you have been able to navigate your life in a way that you've created your own space
Yes.
to thrive. And I think you're a glowing example of what it means to fully embrace yourself and walk and live in faith.
Thank you.
So I'm going to give the audience a little bit more about you. Lena is a secret weapon for founders who have vision but lack process. So if you are a founder out there that has a brilliant idea, please reach out to Lena because she knows how to operationalize and actually help support you with execution. But in addition to that, she is a woman of discipline that has navigated life changes, and some of which we'll speak more about today. But she is here to talk about what happens when you finally get what you ask for and the internal work you need to do in order to sustain it. I hope you're ready. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
And I hope you guys are too, because Crossroads Callings, it starts now. Okay, Lena, I like to start these conversations by giving the audience a glimpse into the heart of the person that I'm interviewing, just so they can understand like where you're coming from and kind of your position and your purpose in your business as well as in life. Mm-hmm. So my first question to you is, how is it that you see yourself and describe yourself, and who is it that you aspire to be?
Great question. How I see myself as a service person. I have always been in the position of service. And service means lots of different things in different ways, right? But I always feel like that's always been my role as a mother, as a daughter, as a friend. Like I always provided some sense of what service looks like, right? Giving, nurturing, taking care of. And luckily, I was able to turn those qualities into a business, right?
Yeah.
Because for me, operations is service, right? Is providing a level of service that people neglect. And so I think that is part of who I am. It's a large part of my nature. But on the other side of that, I'm also very creative, right? And so I like to cook. I like to bake. I like to do photography. I love music. And so when I can meld all of those things into one space, I think it's magic for me when I work, right? And entrepreneurship has allowed me to do that, and to some extent as well.
Yeah. So I want to get into the aspect of service and how that correlates with your 22 years that you were in corporate America. Because 22 years, you don't hear that often. Most people, I think the turnaround time statistically at this moment is maybe 2 to 3 years. So how did service show up for you in 22 years at your former employer in corporate America? And what was that role that led to that type of longevity?
Yeah, I think, I came out and started working in 1998. And back then, years of service mattered.
Yeah.
Right? We were always loyal to where we were. And for me, I stayed for so long because I had a lot of life changes that have happened, right? And so while it may not have always been the space I wanted to be in, it was the space that I had to stay in,
Mm.
right? And so for me, it was, I didn't know anything different. Like that's how we worked back then. You know, we found a job and if it was good and we liked it, we kept it. I don't know that I kept it because I liked it per se.
Mhm.
I think I kept it because it served me
Yeah.
and not in the way that a career, one would think a career normally serves you. So in 22 years, you know, I had a lot of life changes. I went through 2 divorces, I went through a miscarriage, and it served me because
In
mentally,
what way?
well, for 10 of those 22 years, I worked nights.
Mhm.
And in particular, most of my life changes happened in those particular 10 years. And nights was really a covering for me. And it covered me in ways I didn't know I needed to be covered, right? And so some of the things that I'll talk about today are looking back at a time
Yeah.
and understanding a time. And so 10 years of working nights is no feat, right?
Yeah. And I remember you saying
um,
that's not where you wanted to
yeah, it wasn't.
be.
I went to nights because I said to myself, well, in the next year or two, I want to have a baby. This was during my first marriage. And so I wanted a nest egg to stay home and be a mom, right? And I didn't have it. So I said, well, we have a night differential piece here. I can do this. And then once I have my baby, when I come back, I'll go back to days and pursue whatever it is I think I want to pursue, right? And it didn't look like that, right?
Yeah.
It didn't look like that. I ended up getting a divorce. And so then I was on nights. And the only way off of that was to find something during the day. And there were not lots of opportunities to move. But even in that time, I don't know that I wanted to move, right?
Yeah.
I think, you know, I was going through my first divorce.
Let's stop there because you were working nights and you say you were covered.
Mhm.
Do you think the covering of the night shift helped you through your healing process as you were navigating that season?
The first time, I wasn't aware of it.
Okay.
I think it covered me as far as, because my first husband, he and I worked together. And so we were in the
Oh,
same space. And so
yeah.
I think that covering looked different because it was less of people involved in the fact that we're no longer together and seeing him and just
Yeah.
passing by.
Did
So
he work
that,
nights too?
no, he worked days. And
Oh, well,
for a
thank
long
God.
time, I worked days, right? Until I
Okay.
got married and then I went to a night shift.
Right.
And so I think that was the covering in that
Yeah.
spot.
Mhm.
And then the second time around, the covering was I was getting a divorce again, and now I had a child, and I was severely depressed, and I did not need the stress of the daytime stress of what came with my job. So I worked in technology, I worked in a network operations center,
Okay.
and so we dealt with high level severity problems and fixes needed to happen quickly. At night, it was different. It was more managing things that came up, but
Yeah.
doing more maintenance, right? Doing more maintenance of the network and making sure everything that
So
broke
it's
at night got
quieter.
fixed. So it was much quieter, less people, less high level people getting at you all the time, demanding X, Y, and Z from you, right? And that was really that was a covering for me because if I were that person that I was at the time on a day shift, doing something, it would not have been successful for me,
Yeah.
right?
What was it about the day shift? You said it was really just the hustle and bustle, or just the exposure and quantity of people in the environment?
It's much more crowded.
Yeah.
The severities are much more. Yeah, they need to be dealt with immediately, right? And
Yeah.
depending on what it is, right? We worked in I worked for Prudential for the 22 years. So I worked in the financial industry. You know, I sat there during 9/11. I
Wow.
just started in that department on 9/11, and it was crazy. You know,
Yeah.
people were demanding that we fix things on the day of 9/11, which if you looked at it at all, you understood nothing was going to get fixed that day.
Right.
But the nature of the job was you still have to push. You still
Mm.
have to push to the whole New York City is fried, but you still have to push to call out these circuits. You still
Yes.
have to push to get an ETA on when this is going to get fixed. You
Mm.
still have to push, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. And so that for me, I didn't need that level of stress, right? During that time, but I was already on nights. So I didn't know that what I did or didn't need. But for me, looking back at the time, it was the best covering I could have had for
I have
myself.
some follow-up questions for
Mhm.
you. What was the time frame between the first divorce and then the second divorce? Because that's a lot to happen in the span of
It
10
is.
years
Right.
to one person,
Mm-hmm.
emotionally, especially in the kind of high intensity environment that you were working in.
Right.
Like, what was the timeline?
So let's see, maybe 2008 and then 2015.
Okay, so
Yeah.
about 7
Mm-hmm.
years between the two. And then you talk about a lot about being covered and not and but seeing that in hindsight. When did the hindsight happen? Was it on your in your transition after the 22 years, or it was like in the midst of your career and your time there, like, oh, I really needed
Right.
this? When did that reflective moment happen?
I think I've had pockets of reflection,
Okay.
right? I think the deepest reflection has been within the last 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
And so when I say pockets, like I was thankful, I should say,
Mhm.
that I didn't have to deal with high level stress, right? I understood that I had a short wire. I understood that I was depressed, right? I understood that I didn't want certain levels of responsibility. While I probably could handle it and be good at it, they just weren't for me at the time, right? And then when I became an entrepreneur, I think it's the most I've reflected on it, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like my journey into entrepreneurship really wasn't one that I was seeking. Um, you
I
know,
want to talk about that,
yeah.
and then we'll come back to like the pockets of
Okay.
gratitude because it's interesting how in the moment you called that season you called it your quietude,
Hmm.
and as you're describing it, it was a time of both s- uh, severe like life transitions and professional transitions happening at the same time, but then you transition to entrepreneurship and now you're having these pockets of of gratitude. um can you just kind of tie a bow on how these things kind of coincide?
Yeah, I think sometimes we ask God for things and we say, oh, I wish I had this. I wish I was that. The things I was wishing for was, I think for me, I always wanted to be a stay at home mom. My life choices did not lend for me to be a stay at home mom, but the night shift lended for me to be a stay at home mom, right?
Yeah.
Because I worked 3 nights. Most of those nights I worked home. So 2 of the nights I worked home, one night I didn't. Um, so it didn't look like what I thought it would look like in my mind growing up, thinking how my life would look, right? But we make choices, and sometimes those choices don't align with the things that we want to see happen and have planned. And so the night shift for me was that covering. Entrepreneurship is the same. It allows me to still be a full-time mom. I get to make my schedule. I block my calendar. So I work 10 to 3.
Mm.
I choose not to work on Fridays. That's part of for myself, my own mentality, right? And
Yeah.
also just to be around, right? And to have that downtime. And so that's what that looks like, right? And I would have never thought that it would have looked like that, right?
Yeah.
And then when you're a single parent, you have other concerns on top of just work and being a parent. Everything is in your wheelhouse in your particular home. And so I never gave entrepreneurship a thought. Like, how could I do that without a another person beside me to assist,
Mm.
right? But God said, go and do this. And that year, when He told me to do that, Prudential was offering a package. And I never really initially thought anything of it because, like I said, who am I as a single parent to go out and decide to do something different, right?
Yeah.
Um, And then who am I to go out and do what? What would I be doing? Right? I didn't
Right.
have a plan,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't think I qualified because most packages there's a set of qualifications that are attached to them.
Which are what usually?
Like years of service and your age have to equal a number, right? So
Okay.
just like something small, nothing crazy.
Yeah.
But while I worked 22 years, I was still young in age
Yes.
because I had started when I
So you
was
weren't
in my
retirement
early
age.
20s.
Yeah.
Correct. And so I never gave it a thought because I was probably 6-7 years shy of making the whole number, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then when that notice came out, it said, hey, if you had a hire date of the last day of the year before, you can go.
How did you know it was your time to exit? Because
I
you like you
didn't.
packed your stuff and was like,
I
okay.
didn't. Honestly, hours before the VSP announcement came out, my then VP said, hey, what do you plan on doing? And I said, no, I think I'm staying. I haven't really given it much thought. I plan on
Yeah.
staying. And now I was back on days. Now I was doing more of what I wanted to be doing in
the
my
first
career,
place.
right?
Yeah.
Or trying to do, I should say, trying to do more elevated things. And so I felt comfortable. I felt good, you know. And it came out and it said that. And I said, oh my God, they just want us to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I went home. I mulled it over, but not deeply. And the next morning I woke up and on the forefront of my mind, it said, you ask God for something. Don't you see this is it?
What was the ask
So
in
the ask was
detail?
for money. I wanted a good lump sum of money to stabilize after getting divorced, right?
Okay.
And so, but the lump sum of money was not gonna just come. Like it wasn't gonna be a pay increase. Like I
Mhm.
wanted specifically a good lump sum of money.
Yeah.
That didn't require, just a job change, right? Because no job is giving you that much more money in that respect that I wanted to seek. And this was a lump sum of money.
Was it the lump sum of money that you prayed for?
It was more than what I needed.
Wow.
Way more than what I needed.
I'm just gonna pause there
Mhm.
because Lena, you're saying some things, and I don't know if people are really catching the fact that you've prayed for things and they've come in these unconventional ways,
Mhm.
but it was still the answered prayer. I think many people pray for things and are expecting it to come just this
Correct.
one way. And just talk about how your perspective has changed because you pray for a lump sum of money. Like, where am I going to get this lump sum of money?
Right.
And then it came out of nowhere, not really
Correct.
nowhere, but they were trying to boot you out and they paid you to leave.
Correct.
And then you wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. You work this night shift that allows you to be there both for mom and baby.
Yes.
And it has essentially worked itself out. How has your perspective changed and how are you being open to how God responds to you?
Oh, that instance itself was mind-blowing,
Yeah.
because for me, I said, oh, okay, it is. And then I understood that it came with an ask. And so in that instance, it was the first time I really understood that God will provide something that you want. He's going to also probably ask you to do something else too.
Mm-hmm.
And in that instance, he asked me to leave a job I had been at for 22 years. And so while it was the only place I primarily worked, I had also worked other places, but part-time basis, right? Because I did have time on my hands, especially before I had my daughter. When I had her, I did less of that. But he provided something and he asked me to do something. And I understood the ask because, like I said, at this time, I was trying to do something different in my career. And I had been overlooked for opportunities. I had been told to do something and then told, no, I didn't say for you to do it that way. But I was told to act like something was mine in order to prepare for it. And that's what I did. And then I was chastised for doing it.
Yeah,
And
you
so
said
in
you
the
were
moment,
undervalued
yeah.
there.
And so I understood that, oh, okay. But I also was my first time actually walking on faith and being obedient. So I think there's a difference between understanding faith and being faithful. And there's another thing to say, I'm going to be obedient and follow what this faith has told me to do.
What has been the consequence of obedience? And I don't mean consequence in a negative way, but just the result of.
It has allowed me to release the fact that I need to know how everything goes.
Mm.
And so since I work in a space where I am doing lots of logistics and all the preparations and all that stuff, and because you do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And so that's hard for a person that has that mentality and that's built that way, right? Like the person that is always structured and always knows and always the person that someone calls to do X, Y, and Z. And for you to go and say, God told me to do X and keep and continue to walk forward. Like my mother
Yeah.
was like, what are you talking about? Like you don't have a plan.
Was your
And
mother the only person that was just like, you know,
no,
this doesn't
you
make
know what? She was the
sense
only one that said something.
vocally?
I don't know that. I think other people were shocked when I did
Yeah.
it. Not shocked that I couldn't do it, but just shocked that I chose to do it. Right. And also shocked because it had never been something I had discussed. Like I said, I had never. Somebody asked me, "Oh, did you always want to be an entrepreneur?" And I said, "No." It never crossed my mind. Like, what would I entrepreneur exactly? Right.
Yeah.
And so, but once I was in it, I was like, oh, I can do this.
Let's talk about the reinvention of Lena.
Mm-hmm.
Because after 22 years, you will have what I would call a Janet Jackson moment, and not the exposure moment, but how she has reinvented herself almost every decade or every five
Right.
years or so, she reinvents. And so after 22 years in the same place, they gave you this incredible package. Now you have to reinvent.
Yeah.
What was your pathway of reinvention?
Honestly, when I first got out, I went to a recruiter because in my mind, I was just going to be a contractor. Like, for years, people talked about the contract life, the contract money, how good it was, and blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
Okay, let me go out and be a contractor. I can do project management, some level of what I was already doing, and run things in a certain way from a project perspective. And I did that for a year, and I worked side by side with a CTO, and that experience showed me how I can partner with someone, right? And then in that instance, I said, well, I don't need to. I'm never really doing something for a full 8 hours anywhere I work, right? Because I'm good at what I do,
You're
right?
efficient.
So I can get in and get out. I can do this multiple places. And then I suggested it to him that he'd be in a client of mine once we fulfilled our obligations with our recruitment stuff. And he was okay with that. He was a little hesitant at first because he wanted the time. Like, well, what about me? And I said, okay, well, if you are my top client, then you are my top client. I give X priority, right? But I can pick up other things here and there. But that didn't work out. And that was okay because I also in my mind started saying, I don't know if this is the space for me.
What was it
Um,
that stood at that you knew that wasn't the space for you?
because for 22 years, I have been an only Black female in every place I've ever been. Everywhere I've been educated, every place I've stepped in to work, I've always been the only Black female. And there was no different. And I knew that I wanted something to feel different about the work that I did, right? I wanted it to be special and to be cherished and to be understood, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes people hear those adjectives and say, but this is work. Like you want to be cherished? Yes, I do. Like I want my work to be appreciated at a core level, right? And when you work in corporate America and other spaces, they don't take it at the core level. It's like, oh, I pay you to do a job. And yes, you do. I get that. But there's some level of appreciation that needs to happen. And so after meeting, that ended with him. I met a wonderful lady out in Ohio, and she owned her own business, and she was looking for what I understood to be a project role.
Mm-hmm.
And she and I met, and we hit it off, and she took a little while to get back to me, but she finally did. And then she said, hey, but I know what we talked about, but I really would love to bring you on as my company's COO. And I was like, no, that's not what
Yeah.
we talked about.
Right. Because you were still
Uh,
looking for contract
well, it was
roles.
still a contract with her, but
Yeah.
it was going to be a fractional. So it was the first time I was introduced to this concept of being a fractional COO.
Yeah.
And I said to her, but why? She goes, it's in my spirit to do this. and she doesn't do things lightly, right?
Mm.
And she said, I've thought about it, I prayed about it, and although we haven't started working together yet,
A lady at
this
work
is
said this?
this is a lady that I was looking to partner with. She owned her own
Really?
company. She
Okay.
had owned a larger company, and now she owned a little boutique firm
Yeah.
out in Ohio, and she was really looking for someone to help her manage her business
But
plus
thought about
her.
it, pray about it is not something that's not
Correct.
work
Right.
vernacular,
Right.
which is why I
Exactly.
stopped you. Like, this was work?
No.
Yeah.
This was her work,
Yeah.
but not a corporate space.
Okay.
And so I said to her, okay, here's what I'll say. I'm not 100% comfortable with what you're asking me because I don't know what comes with being this role, right? I had never looked at it, never delved in it. I said, but if you're willing to take the chance, I'm fine. Just be upfront with me when something is not right so that we can fix it. Because what I didn't want to happen was for her to say, oh, you're not doing X, Y, and Z, and now you're gone, right? Now, I can be gone for lots of reasons, and that's okay. But I don't want to be gone for a reason that you placed in my lap and asked me to do when I was clear I was not probably well suited at the time for it, right?
Yeah. Was that a little bit of your trauma from the 22 years
I
kind of
think
coming
it
up?
was more of just me. I don't like to go into anything I don't know,
Right.
that I don't have a clue about. I won't answer questions I don't really have an answer to. Like, I'm built that way, right?
Right.
And so it was the first time I was okay saying, it's okay to not know. Go ahead and move forward.
Mm.
And then when I started doing it, I was like, oh,
What were you afraid of?
what were you even afraid of? Because
Yeah.
all it was ever is managing multiple business projects, period. Putting in systems into place, making sure things get done, holding people accountable, looking at their teams, making sure people are where they should be, how they're working. Should this person even be doing this for you, right?
Mhm.
All things that I already used to do.
Wow.
But thinking that, this title of COO came with so much more depth, so much more education, so much more certification, so much more of
Right.
all the things that we deem important, but really are not important, right? And so that for me was the pivot. That's when it really became a business for me. And that's when I became a fractional COO. And so that's what I do in my business. And it was a pivot because now I'm working with a Black female owned business.
Yes.
I'm working with a predominantly Black staff under her.
Yeah.
And the people after, I've had probably about 11 or 12 clients that I've worked with throughout the 6 years. They predominantly have been Black women owned businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the first time ever that I've worked the hardest I've ever worked, but always felt seen.
Yeah. Talk about that. What is the key differentiator between those spaces where it was just you to now the environment which you've essentially created?
Mm-hmm. You know what? I think I'm most grateful for it because there's a sisterhood that is involved in this space, right?
Yeah.
There's lots of things, like what we live in this world right now is hard, right? We see the headlines, we see the headlines about Black women in the environment and working and losing jobs and losing spaces and not getting the credit that they deserve, even though they're the smartest in the room and that we're the most highly educated species out here.
Yes.
And it is the first time that I was just like, okay, that's what I offer. Like, that's what I market. Because we have a way that we work.
Right.
We have a way that we speak. We have things that we do. And there's lots of misconception behind it. There's misconception behind our tone, our directness, our bluntness. And once I sat in it, I was like, this is the space I want to be in. I want to be able to work with women who look like me.
Yeah.
I want to be able to support a dream that's not just mine, but theirs. I don't want you to code switch in your own business.
Right. Yeah.
I don't want you to feel that burden, because that burden is heavy when you're trying to work and get things done, and misconceptions. And so it was the first time I had ever worked in that type of space, and I loved it.
Did you feel, dare I say, freer?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. What do you say to people that may think you're limiting your business because
It is a limitation. I won't lie. I understand it. I know it. And last year when my business was very slow,
yeah.
it was extreme. It was probably, some days I'm like, but then I go back to saying no. When God tells you to do something, you do it.
Yeah. What's sustaining you?
In what way? Just the mindset way?
Yes.
I just have
And even in your business, because you said you had a hard year a couple years ago. You were self-employed probably during the pandemic as well.
That's when I started.
Yeah. Of all times to start a business.
Right before, 2 weeks before.
and then boom, the lights go out.
Yes.
Just like, and then you stepped out on faith because you said, God said, and then all of a sudden the city is a ghost town.
And that money wasn't to live on, right?
Right. It was
I
just to
wasn't
get
trying
started.
to take a break from work. And no, I was trying to start something.
Yeah.
But I had that one deal. And so that actually lasted me through the pandemic. And then my other clients started coming after the pandemic. After 2021 is when I started doing business for myself. And so, yes, it is limiting. Yes, helping small business is limiting, right? Yes, I can go out and work someplace else, but I don't know that I would feel the level of gratification, right? And I think for me, when I look at it, I say, wow, these people are putting their trust in me. They're putting their dreams in me. They want a right-hand person to come in and help them grow, sustain, whatever it looks like, clean up, whatever, right? Because operations looks like lots of different things.
It does.
And so I like to come in and just see what it is, see what is there. And each space has been different and unique from either what the person does for their own business and what it is that I need to offer them. Right? So yes, I'm coming in as a fractional COO in most spaces, but I'm not giving them the same things, right? Some person might be good in this space, but need more direction here, right? So I give different things. And so when people ask me what it is, sometimes I think people want this very cookie cutter, like, oh, do you have a little price? No, I don't.
Yeah, like a menu almost.
Because you're hiring a version of yourself when you're hiring me, right? You're hiring that person that if you went away on vacation, you're not interested in making any phone calls back to the office, right? You're not interested in worrying about those things. And that's the role that I provide, right? And so it's been a journey of trust where people are trusting me and I'm trusting myself. And I'm trusting that God is saying, hey, in these slow years, when they were slow, something always showed up.
Let's
project
talk about
here,
everything,
there.
things showing up. Do you have a story where something just showed up and came out of nowhere that you weren't expecting?
Let me think. I have lots of stories.
Yeah, because it seems like your faith is always
Yeah.
working. That seems to be a thread. And God has responded to you
Yes.
throughout this process.
He has.
Even when it was looking a little bleak.
I mean, I remember last year. Last year was probably my hardest year. The year before that, I could tell that things were slowing down.
What made last year hard?
It just, nobody wanted to spend money. People were concerned about the election most of the year.
Yeah.
They didn't know what it was going to look like. And I play in a lot of DEI spaces, which I like because it was a passion of mine prior to starting my own business, right? And so, I wanted to still play in those spaces, right? And it was a year where people were wanting to curb their language and all of the things. And I'm not a curber in a particular way. I've learned to be more so, and when I need to. But I didn't want to not say that my primary focus was Black women-owned businesses. I'm not afraid to say that.
And it was almost a shame and a
correct.
stigma
And
of
people were
catering to a group of
afraid.
people.
They
Yes.
didn't want to say that they played in this space. I play in this space
Yeah.
because it's important and we need it, right? That's it. Period. Like, if you read the Bible, lots of things have happened, and God said, that's not the plan, right?
Right.
It'll happen, and God allows a lot of things to happen, but it's not the plan.
Right.
And so for me, I stick with it because that's the plan that I understand that He has.
So with the demise of DEI, how do you maintain your commitment to women-owned and Black-owned businesses?
I go to conferences, I do outreach, I do random outreach. If I see something that interests me, I'll say, hey, this is what I do. If you're interested, let me know. And that's how He came through last year. I did a couple of things 2-3 years prior where I met people. And somebody called and said, hey, you remember me? I said, sure. No, let's talk. I said, okay. And that came through. And then, I had a friend that said, hey, you still looking to do some work in this space here? I said, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that came through.
Mm-hmm.
And so then a few things came through at one time. And so one thing I actually had to turn away because it looked like a bigger project than I had anticipated it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And because I had plentiful now, like I had 3 things on the table and I couldn't do all 3 myself. And so I took the things that I thought would be more beneficial for my business, financially and personally, right? And so I worked 2 spaces, and so they all came when they needed to come. Because
Yeah.
then, there was a month where I was like, Lord, this is gonna look like a 00.00. So whatever your plan is, please.
You
because
said, please step in now.
I had even heavily contemplated going back to a corporate space.
Yeah.
And every time it made me sick.
Mm.
Like it made my stomach
yeah.
weird. And I said, okay, Lord, I'm just going to trust you. And the trusting in Him actually led to, for me, something I probably would have never done, was really look at my company in a particular way and my finances.
Okay, talk
And
about that.
to play a game with my money, right? And by that I mean, we think about, our families and our legacy and our kids, and how do we leave them things? How do we supply for them? How do we play this game when we're out here saying, hey, they say owning your business gives you all these benefits, right?
Right.
Excuse me. And, I wasn't seeing these types of benefits. But when my money was shrinking and shrinking and shrinking, and my daughter, she goes to a private school, and I was like, Lord, you specifically told me to move forward.
Yeah.
Don't wait for high school. Move forward. So now I have a tuition bill on top of other bills. So I'm going to keep moving forward. She got in, so we kept moving
You
forward.
said we locked in.
Right.
Yeah.
And I knew that you wouldn't give me something and then have it taken away. Right? That I know for sure that He will not do. Not to me and not to her.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, okay, what do I need to do? Like, what do I need to do? And then I started learning about different types of businesses. So when we become entrepreneurs, most of us come out here and we make an LLC and we think we're going to get all these benefits. An LLC gets you nothing, really. Unless you're like really like playing high, right?
Yeah.
And so I started learning about, well, what can an S Corp do for me? What can a C Corp do for me? What could it do for my finances? How can it help me to, because there's a game that people play. There's a game that, everybody talks about it.
Drop
It's
the
all
game,
over.
'cause
It's
I have
all
an
over.
LLC.
It's all over the internet,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, people are not paying this, they're not paying taxes, they're not doing
Yeah.
this. Like, find yourself a good tax strategist. Tell them what your goal is. And help them help you make it happen. And so for me, even though my business was what it was not doing as well as I wanted it to be, I said, here's my goal. I need to be able to get my daughter through this school and through college. I don't want to have to pay for it in such a way. Help me figure it out.
Okay.
And so that first year, I understood what I could live on, what I didn't need.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
So you start cutting kind of the fat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I understood what I needed to live.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe, I want to be I want to be at a space where I'm thriving. But right now, I'm not in a thriving season.
Yeah.
Right? I'm in a providing season. And right now, this is the plan. And so I changed my company. People were like, I don't know why you're doing this. I said, it's okay.
Changed it in what
I made
way?
myself a C Corp.
Okay. And what did that do for you?
It gives me tax benefits I never had before.
Oh, okay.
It allows me to play a game a little bit differently with my money.
Mm.
It allows me to walk this space and provide in a way that I did not know I could. Right? And so that is part of the things that I've learned in this space too. Because, we think about all these things and we say, oh, I'm just going to do this. But LLCs are attached to your personal taxes. So any dollar you make is attached to you as an individual, regardless if it came from a business or not. And when you are wanting to be in the space of private education and all that thing, all that matters.
Wow.
So I said, okay, this was the reason for this particular season, the first time. Right? And then the second time, I think last year was really a season of, because I think I'm still growing in my space with God and obedience and listening and not questioning, just doing.
Yes.
Right? And he said, just trust me. I'll get you through. Don't worry. And I said, okay. And it was hard because I know how my mind works. And then what I realized in that season last year was I'm attached to what I do.
Yeah.
For gratification, right? For feeling good.
You care.
I'm attached to the thing.
Right.
And when I didn't have the space to do it, I was like, what am I going to do with myself in this time that I'm waiting? Because I'm going to wait. Because I did entertain. I'm going to wait. And so I remember when I got divorced the second time, I'm just going to go back to why I did what I did this time. I needed a reason to wake up. My daughter was it, but it wasn't enough. And I was just waking up, getting her prepared and taking her to school and dropping her off and coming back home and sleeping.
Okay.
And then working at night. And so I needed that covering for sure in that season. And then one day I fell asleep and I left my windows open. And I woke up really early. It was like 5 a.m. or so. And the sun was beautiful, like pinks and oranges and all of these colors. It was rising. And I was like, wow, I want to wake up and see this every day. And so that's what I did. Started waking up at 5. Because before I was barely waking up to get up, but getting up on time to get her situated.
Right.
But I was barely waking up. And then I said, okay, so I'm going to sit in this spot in my room, watch the sun come up, have my books and read and talk to God in that way. And so fast forward now, we're in this season of, lack, but not lack, I guess.
Of waiting.
Right? Of waiting.
You're in a season of
preparation.
Waiting.
And he said, what did I tell you before to do? And I said, okay. But I had still been doing that kind of, not as deliberately as I was doing it, but I was still an early riser, and I've done that all my life, really. But I started walking. And the walking, at first, I was like, I need something just to keep my mind clear.
Yes.
And so I started walking. And then a friend of mine, I said, hey, can we walk every day for an hour? Because when you work from home and you work out of your house and all you're doing is in your home, I needed an out. So she was like, sure. So we started meeting up for an hour every day. And then I said, oh, well, everybody wants to do this 10,000 step thing.
Yeah.
Let me just do that. I got time. I didn't realize 10,000 steps equated to 5 miles.
Yes, it does. And I know that for a fact. Because I count mine too. I didn't know that for a fact.
Yes. So the first day I did it, I was like, oh, I got to be at 10,000 by now.
Absolutely not.
I was only at like maybe 6. And I said, how many miles is this? I said, okay. Did it, figured out it meant 5 miles.
Mm-hmm.
But also figured out it meant I couldn't just do these little laps around my complex because that would be boring. So now I'm walking the streets of my town. Now I'm walking streets of my town, like to get 5 miles on a loop. Like no place I've ever walked before.
Okay.
And I'm walking it. And as I'm walking it, I'm like I said, I like photography. And as I'm walking it, it's summertime, so the sun is coming up, and because I was liking to walk really early because she's not in school, and I'm seeing the sun come up. I'm seeing different things with the sun, and so I started this series called the Peekaboo series, where I would see the sun land in this little opening in the trees, little opening in the space, and the sun would be a perfect circle within it. And then, so now I was chasing the sun, but just in a different way.
Yeah.
And so I did that from May of last year until probably December because the weather lasted long enough.
What was
for me to
happening in your
do.
business while you were you were
Nothing.
chasing the sun?
Nothing.
So you were truly using this time to
I was
rest and
truly
decompress.
giving myself a goal each day
Wow.
because I realized that I needed something to give me purpose.
Right.
Right? And so the walks were purpose. It was my goal for the day. Get out. So 10,000 miles equaled 90 minutes for me.
Yeah.
So I got a 90-minute walk in every day. And I did it mostly 6, 7 days, almost 7 days a week if I could, but mainly Monday through Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And it gave me that headspace clarity that I needed. Because I think if I were just home, I would just think about, I don't have work.
Yeah,
right?
but you don't have the lack, and it actually
Right.
probably would start planting seeds of almost like fear.
Right.
Because it was so quiet too
Yeah.
during that time.
And I just walked the streets of, my town, and people would text me like, hey, did I see you walking? And I'm like, yes, that was
It's
me.
like, is this you?
I was like, yes, that was me. Which was just hilarious, right?
Yeah.
But it really was a saving grace in that space of being okay with stillness, being okay with quiet, understanding that something will come through. And I did that all summer. And then September came like a whirlwind, and all these things started flowing and coming in. And I said, okay, Lord, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing, because when people think of entrepreneurship or they see people online doing really well, they don't really talk about these quietude seasons. And you've had essentially two, like you was quiet for those 22 years when you were working that night shift, and then you had a season last year where you just had to just lean in. And nobody really talks about how hard it is to remain in obedience when it seems like you're on pause.
Mm-hmm.
And what has happened in your business since that time?
Like I said, he gave me 3 contracts,
Mm-hmm.
one of which I had to say no to. The other one of those actually went away.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was left with a really good contract that I had that I liked.
Yeah.
And he's provided in that way where I understand the work I want to be doing. Right. And I'm happy to be doing it. And so it has come full circle. Right. But now, like the other contract that I had, it was a corp contract actually. And that might be ending sooner than I thought. And so now I feel like I'm in this space now, like, okay, Lord, I'm not trying to be anxious.
Yeah.
Because we've already done this. We have already done this before.
Right.
So I'm not trying to be anxious. I'm going to tell you explicitly what I want, what I need, and when I need it by. And I think shortly thereafter, a lady that I spoke to probably sometime early last year, she said, hey, I think I might be in a position for you now.
Wow.
And I said, okay, let's talk. And so, I'm still waiting to talk to her, but those are the types of things that happen.
Yeah.
Right. But we're natural and we're human. And so, sometimes I feel like I shouldn't feel some anxiety sometimes.
This anxiousness.
Right.
Yeah.
But then I have to give myself grace because I understand that I am human. Right. And I understand that I do have responsibilities. And I understand that, I think the first time around I was hard on myself because I was like, oh, you didn't prepare properly. You
Mm-hmm.
didn't do your part. But then when I looked at it, I was like, no, you did your part. Just ran out. Things do run out.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. It happens.
it's not gonna last forever. I
Yeah.
did my part. And while I could have done something more and better, probably I could have, it wouldn't have made that much of a dent in what I needed to happen. Right.
Yeah.
And so that's the faith that I have, right? Now I'm looking at things and saying, who do I know? Who can I talk to? And then I remembered a friend and I said, hey, can we do this? She goes, sure. And I said, okay. So the things are coming together quicker than they did the first time. But also allowing me to challenge myself. What should you be doing different? What can you do different? Where are there spaces to sustain? And then prior to having my daughter, 12 years ago, I had opened like a catering LLC.
Okay.
And I never used it because 3 months later, I got pregnant with my daughter and I didn't feel well. And I never really went after it. And then life happened. I let it sit there. I kept the name, and kept all the things. And then last year I said, why can't you use this in a slow period?
Mm.
So let's figure out how to use it. So back to my tax accountant strategist and say, hey, how do I do this? What do I do this with? I'm going to
Yes.
reinstate it because I did not do the requirements like with the state for a couple of years. I said, so if I reinstate this, what can I do? So we talked about it. And so the other day, again, because I was busy on a contract, I hadn't really dived into reinstating that fully.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm just trying to figure out, what do I need to do this? Do I need a kitchen? What kind of things can I do for my own home, right?
Right.
What kind of insurance do I need, right? Because this involves food and different things. And, I like events. So, there was a space last year where somebody called me to do like day of management for their event, right?
Like a
And so,
coordinator.
right. And so I have to learn to lean into all the other things that I'm really
Wow.
good at too, right? So
Yeah.
I'm a really good chef. I'm a really good baker. I'm a really good event person, right? I'm creative. I have lots of ideas. I like to put things together. And so, even coming here, I was like, what do I need to be doing? And that's what I need to be doing. I need to now establish this line of an outlet and establish it well because I want it to do well. And it can be a source for when things are slow,
Right.
right?
I think you're speaking to a lot of people in the sense, one, that want to go into entrepreneurship and just the reality that it truly is an ebb and flow. And then during that quiet season, being able to lean into other things, which is what you're doing
Right.
now. A word of would you mind giving a word of advice to people that are in their waiting season, dealing with some anxiety? There was a few things that you did. You talked to your tech consultant. They gave you ideas of how to make your money work differently. But what other advice do you have for someone trying to navigate that season?
Great question. I think that seasons are seasons. We have to really trust them, right? And so what I really would suggest is leaning into the season, understanding that it has a purpose. I think sometimes we don't see the purpose, and it's okay if we don't see the purpose. But if you are a believer in God, there is always purpose.
Yeah.
And understand that. And then once you start really being purposeful and seeking, what is the reason I'm in this space? What is it going to teach me? I think you'll start to understand why there's a pause, why there's a pause to prepare, why there's a pause to heal. Because that's what I also learned in that space too, that there was a space that I needed healing. And if I was busy, I'm not going to put my focus there. And so that's what the walking also did. And that's what it also prepared me for, a new level of healing, right? So, being an entrepreneur is hard work. You have to believe in it yourself only. No one else has to believe in it. It's between you and God or whatever it is that you serve. And if you believe it's your calling, then it will work and figure itself out, right? But the things that you need to do to prepare, they always don't look like what we think preparation is, right?
Yeah.
So I think for me is healing is preparation.
Say that again.
So healing is preparation,
Okay.
right? So like I said, nights covered me.
Mm-hmm.
If I was on days, I would have been a short fuse. I would have ruined opportunities that may or may not have been there. I don't know. But healing has provided me to listen differently, to offer more patience when I work with clients, to understand where people are coming from. Like, I think I have more level of understanding when I encounter someone who's having a bad day and say, okay, this is not about me. Because prior to a level of healing, I would internalize the thing,
Yeah.
right? And make them about me. And 9 out of 10 times, they're never about you.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? They're never about the person they're attacking. It's always something else going on somewhere else, right? And so healing is preparation, right? It's understanding that. I think for me, this round of healing was to show me the things that I hadn't truly let go of, that were still blocking my blessings. And I heard something this morning. I think it was Pastor Mike, and I'm not going to get the whole verbiage correct, but he was like, I'm not going to continue to block my blessings because there's blessings out there for me. And I think that that's what I've learned, that, you're blocking the things that God wants for you.
Right.
You don't even have probably half of the things that God wanted for you right now because of choices. Right. So I had to understand what my role was in the choices I made and where it got me.
Okay.
Right.
Almost accountability.
Yeah. Right. But in different ways. And I do accountability as operations, but this is a level of accountability
For life.
for our space that we need to be in. In order to run a business, you have to understand certain things about yourself, who you are, how you work, how I mother.
Yeah.
It becomes very important. I realized when the other day I did something and I was like, oh, you shouldn't have did that with my daughter. And so after the fact, I said, hey, I want to apologize.
Apologize.
And she was like,
Oh,
oh,
wow.
for what? And I said, you know what? Sometimes I'm so focused on teaching the lesson with you that I have to pull back and say this could be addressed at a different time. I said, so I apologize. I hope I didn't embarrass you. I said, but it was never my intention to do that in that way to you, right? But that's a level of understanding that took me a long time to come to, right?
Yeah.
Especially as a mother, right? Like I pride myself on being a mother, pride myself on breaking curses that are within my family.
Because did your mom apologize to you growing up?
Never.
Okay, neither did mine. So that's why I said, oh, you apologize? Because my mom
and
never.
I'm very conscious of how I grew up, the things I liked and didn't like, and wanting to not repeat cycles. But you don't understand that cycles just repeat.
Yes.
You have no control over them unless you're conscious of them. If you're conscious, you can have some sense of control and you can do something different. And so that's for me what it's teaching me. Like this level of healing, this downtime, this time, right? Is to say, hey, here's a part. It happened. You have to address it now.
Yeah.
Right? Because it'll be the benefit of all things, not just this part. It'll be the benefit of in my business, because these are the attributes you have to bring for people to trust. Right?
Yeah.
And if I walk out here and I'm saying I'm selling trust, because that's what I say. When people ask me all the things, they want technical terms, and I go, we can talk technical. Anybody can give you technical. You don't necessarily trust technical all the time. You can have a person that is fully certified in all the things. Like when I meet people and they go, oh, are you looking for people? And do they have to have this? No, they don't have to have it. Is it great? Yes.
Yeah.
Does it mean something? Probably. But if you are good at what you do, you are good at what you do. I don't
That's
care what
it.
certification you take. I'm not the greatest test taker, so I did not score well on SAT, but I'm smart. I'm smart in ways that other people aren't smart, right? It doesn't take away because I got a low SAT score that I
Mhm.
could go and then still get into other colleges because I had other things behind me. And I think that's just how this world works in entrepreneurship.
Right.
When you are selling yourself and asking somebody to trust you, they have to see that in you, right? And I do see a shift. I see a shift in how people see me. I see
Mhm.
a shift when I walk the streets of my town. I see how people look, right? And I always like sit and wonder, like, what do they see? Like people walk by and they smile and all this stuff. Because people are very impersonal
Mhm.
for the most part these days.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah.
And, one day I said, they see the God in you without speaking to me, without knowing me. I got my music in my ears. I'm strolling in the street and I'm having a good time by myself, right? But that's
Yeah.
what they see. That's just my belief in what they
Yeah.
see,
When we
right?
first started the interview, I asked you, what do you aspire to be? Now that you shared your story, what is that?
I aspire to be what God wants me to be. And every day I'm learning what that is, right?
Mhm.
Because I think that we have aspirations and we have all these grandiose ideas of what is powerful and what is meaningful and all of these
Yeah.
things.
Mhm.
And it's really not that. Like, I really want to aspire to be what God has called me to be. And what that is, I don't know.
Mm.
This year it's something. This year I'm learning, one thing. Next year I will learn something different. But each year I am trying to attain the goal of aspiring what God has asked me to become. Because he has asked us all to become something. He had a plan for all of us. And that's it. I want to live within God's will and plan. And do I make mistakes? Yes, I do. But for the most part, I think every day I'm directed towards sitting, reading, hearing, and understanding. Okay, this is your plan if it's in your will, right? Let's do it if it's in your will. And really feeling it, right? And knowing that,
Yeah.
you know what, this isn't just jitters in your belly. This is
This is
the
real.
Holy Spirit saying no or yes, right?
Yeah.
Because jitters also means sometimes to move
Nerves. Like
forward,
you,
right?
yeah, you
It's
may
like,
want
it's okay. It's not
to.
always bad.
Yeah.
And so that's what I aspire to be.
Yeah. You speak a lot about like hearing from God, and you touched on it a little bit about having a feeling, but what are your other signs or validations that you are in purpose and you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing?
So I do daily reads.
Okay. What
I
is that?
have just spiritual daily reads.
Okay.
Or not only just spiritually based. Some of them are just life based, right? Melody Beattie is one that I read. The Language of Letting Go was one I read, and she has two versions of that. And right now I'm reading The Pivot Year, which I actually love. It's really short and quick.
I started it.
Yeah, and it's beautiful.
It
And
is.
for me, I think when I first started hearing God talk to me, it was so weird but beautiful at the same time. Or during that time when I was starting to wake up to see the sunrise. And at first I would read and then talk to God, because at that time I was just starting a spiritual journey with God. And I didn't know how to pray. And I was very self-conscious of, am I praying right? Am I doing this right? Like, because there's a perfectionist side of me that I want to do the things right. If I'm going to
Yes.
do them, I want to do them right, and I want to do them well. And so I didn't know. I didn't know what to pray about, what to do. So I said, I'll read first, and then whatever the reading said, I'd pray. And I never got really any satisfaction out of that. And then one day, I said to myself, why don't you just talk and then read? And so I just started talking like we're talking. So I wake up, I say, and now I record myself. Not that I've listened to them, but for some reason I record them now. And when I open a book and it says exactly what I just talked about, I think it's amazing,
Yeah.
right? So God isn't always audible in that way. It's paper, it's dreams. Um, but when he talks on these books that aren't even written for me, books that have been written years before, books that I have read for several years. So I have maybe 5 or 6 that I interchange. One year I read one for the 3 years straight. And every single time it still spoke to me,
Mm,
which I always think is beautiful because words will speak to what it is that you're going through at the moment,
that's true.
right? And so while I had meaning 5 years ago for something else, it still had meaning in a different way now. And so for me, that's how I hear God. I speak, he speaks back, and I say, okay, Lord, I hear you.
Yeah. Tell me about you now because you navigated 22 years. You went into entrepreneurship 6 years ago. Tell us about your business and what are you where are you looking to take it next? You spoke a little bit about going into catering again. Is that
hmm
just going to be an extension of your business? Is it going to be its own separate brand?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a separate entity. So it's called
Yeah.
Italian Soul.
Okay.
And so I'm Black and Italian. And so that's where the name comes from. And I think that will be a separate entity
Mm-hmm.
underneath my main business. As far as my main business is concerned, I want it to really become a business. Like
Okay.
right now, I'm a solopreneur.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been that this entire time. But this year, I'm really seeking for it to grow in that way and getting contracts, maybe corporate contracts where I can hire PMs and, give this work out, right? I never want to be in a position to say no to something that matters, whether it be a corporate contract or another entrepreneur, right? Um, and I really want to be in the business of giving people work. And the people
Mm-hmm.
that I would love to give work to really are women who have taken the time to leave their fields and raise their kids. But now their kids are older and they have their own lives, right? And they're looking for something that is manageable and they can make their own hours and do the
Women like
work.
you.
Right. And
Yeah.
so I really would love that to be this company's story,
Yeah.
right? To grow and become a company. So like I've done the structural things, right? And then to really grow and I don't know, maybe one day have employees. Like right
Mm-hmm.
now I probably can't do employees, but I can do contractors. Um, but really being able to do that and understanding what that means and the people that it would affect and the people that I would like it to affect are those types of women, right? That because when they try to go back to get a job, people say, oh, you've been out of work for so
Too
long.
long.
That has
Yeah.
nothing to do with anything, especially if you are a conscious person that continues up on a skill just because you didn't work and do it. It
Mm-hmm.
means nothing.
Yeah.
And we lose out on so many things. And it's like a chastisement to say, like, oh, you haven't been around for 5, 10, 15
Mm-hmm.
years. So what? She's been doing other things that you actually need,
Yes.
right? Like
Yeah.
all of this stuff that we do as mothers and wives and managing the things, that's relevant,
Mm.
right? And so that's what I would like for that to be. I would love to do this catering thing. I think cooking is my love language to people. So I love cooking for people and doing that type of stuff. I love cooking different things. And so I think for me, like Italian soul is that mix of, Italian heritage and African American heritage and just making food that meshes
Yes, like a
together.
fusion.
Yeah. And so, I think right now I'm gonna start small, things that are manageable and
Mhm.
try to figure out, what I need to make it successful, right?
Yeah.
Where can I find the space to cook in? Even that space, are there people that
Mhm.
also cook well, right? And then we
Ye
can come together and
Yeah.
you make your specialty, I make my specialty. We put it on here,
You're a
right?
community builder.
Yeah. And so that's what I would love to see happen
Yeah.
in the next, few years.
I love how you spoke about how God speaks to you and how he's been speaking to you through your journey about just speaking out loud and then having that confirmation come up in reading. I think that happens to me a lot. I think when people say, "Oh, God speaks," and some people get freaked out, and
Yeah, yeah,
then
yeah.
and you just realizing that speaking
Right.
can and confirmation can show up in a number of ways. And I think that's what I want you as the audience to understand is that it doesn't it's not always literal. It
Correct.
doesn't always look textbook example of what you're expecting. And I think you're a glowing example of that. Do you think you are now living in your purpose and calling?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And what do you think that is, if you can articulate it?
I think I'm living what God has asked me to do, which is go out and help others be successful at what they want to be successful at, right? I'm living that calling. That's the purpose I think I live in my space of business. So that's why I say it's an act of service, right? Because it is an act of service to help someone lift their goals, right?
Yes.
And to either lift or to rearrange and clean up, whatever it looks like, right? And so I think that that is the act of service that I do. And I think, like, as a mother, it is lifting my daughter in the same way, right?
Yeah.
Is providing her some level of service, teaching her who God is, helping her to understand it for herself.
Mhm.
Just like you said, people are like, what does that mean? And so she'll ask me, what does that mean? And I say, well, here's what it means for me.
Yes.
Because I
Yeah.
don't want you to do it for you. What happens to me may not happen for you.
That's true.
But when you see it and hear it, you will know that it is God. That much I do know,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
And just for her to have her own journey, I don't know that we teach our kids that. I didn't grow up that way.
No, neither did I.
I
Yeah.
didn't grow up in a church. I didn't grow up knowing the Lord. Like I said, this journey for me has been, I don't know, since 2015, right?
Yeah.
So 10 years, little over 10 years, but growing each year and really, trying to pass that type of legacy along.
Mhm.
Like, how do you survive? And she understands what the survival part of it means, right? Like I had to, we had conversations about things and I've shown her, like, hey, this has happened for you only by the grace of God.
Yes.
No other way
Yeah.
has this happened for you, right?
Mhm.
So I think she's hearing and learning, and I've always been a believer that whether a child understands or not, they'll see it one day
They
and then
watch
they
you.
will say, oh,
Yeah.
this is what she was saying all along,
Yeah.
right? And she'll have that moment. I said, luckily for you, you don't like, so we do reads ourselves.
Mhm.
So she has a book, I have a book, like that we read together. Um, and I just hope that it's a practice that sticks with her, But if it's not, it's fine. She finds her own way to figure that out for herself.
Yeah. As we get ready to end the interview, I always allow my guests to give some last words, some how tos. You've dropped a lot of gems
Oh,
throughout
thank you.
the interview, but I always like that audience gets kind of personal moment.
Mm-hmm.
And if you could maybe direct your attention towards the camera and just
Sure.
really share what's in your heart that you think would help someone maybe going through entrepreneurship, going through a quietude season, feeling anxiety, just learning how to trust God. I grew up in the church, so when you said that, when I said me too, I was like, I didn't have a choice. My mom was like, we
Right.
Jesus over here,
Uh-huh.
and if you do anything else, that's it's up to you. But like, there are a lot of people that are new or even seeking
Mm-hmm.
faith and something to believe in, especially in these times.
Yeah.
So, I want you to take a moment and speak to those people.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I think I'd like to reflect on understanding that God will always speak to you. It may not sound like he's speaking, you may not know that he's speaking, but it requires discipline. So whatever it is that you choose to do, you have to be disciplined in doing it. The discipline is what makes you want to seek further and to continue to be obedient. Uh, God's will for each person is different. He has one for all of us. But in order for us to know it and hear it and feel it and know that it's his will, we have to be disciplined. Discipline is hard. You can be disciplined at one thing and not disciplined in another, and they're not the same. Discipline in God is probably the hardest level of discipline that you will ever experience, but probably the most rewarding, because at the end of it, you get the plan that He has for you, that you have been seeking, but just don't know that you've been seeking. And the same in your space of entrepreneurship. I think if it is God's will for you, that's what you should be asking. Is this your will for me? And you should be able to know yes or no, and things will start to happen, good or bad, right? So like, I think sometimes people think, oh, these good things will happen, right? For me to confirm. No, some bad things might happen to confirm that you should not be here doing this. This is not right for you and who you are, right? So everything, it was a saying one time that said, Jesus came, but He didn't do everything that was good, right? Everything that was good, He didn't have time to do. Yeah. So just because it comes to you and it seems good doesn't mean it's for you, right? And that's the same for people. Like, there's good people that will come. Doesn't mean that they should be here. Doesn't mean that they should stay here. And so I always hung on to that because I think it helped me to be able to let go of certain things in life and of people, to say, you know what, it's good, but it's not for me.
Yeah.
Right. So I would just say, figure out what works for you, whether that's reading, whether that's watching things online, whether that's walking, whether that's playing a sport, whether that's photography. Like, you can find all of the things when you really go out and seek them. I think it's really crazy. Like, when you go out, so like I go out and seek the sun in a hole, and I see it every time. There is not a day that goes by that I don't see it. And what's crazy is my friends will say, how did you see that? And I say, I just look up. It's right there. Right?
Yeah.
So if we just look up, it's right there. Right? The answers are there. The anxiety doesn't need to be what it is. You know, God doesn't create us to fear, but we fear. I fear, still, but I fear less. And I feel it, right? And so in the space of entrepreneurship, I'm really learning to release that level of fear that is attached to money and finances, right? And just say, you know what? God has told me this is my space. And because He's told me it, He will provide it.
Lena, how can people best get in touch with you? They're looking to partner with you, work with you, or even connect with you personally or professionally.
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn at Lena Ryals. I do have my website, lmrconsultingfirm.com. You can reach me through there. From there, you can see my email address and reach out there. I am based in New Jersey, but I work all over. I probably only had one New Jersey client in this whole time.
Okay, you have a global company.
So I have a nationwide company, yes, which is great. And I don't do really social media in this space.
Okay.
So I don't have that. But yeah, my website is a very good place to start. LinkedIn, I try to be active on LinkedIn. I try to tell stories like this that are, moving and also connect back to what I do in my business. I try to be relatable in that way. But yeah, LMR Consulting Firm is my business. And thank you so much for having me today.
I will drop Lena's contact information in the lower thirds here, as well as in the description. I'll have an active link directly to her website. So if you wish to connect with her, reach out to her, or even speak to her about some of her experience, I'm certain she would love to drop some more gems, share her advice. She's very personable. She reached out to me, and this is how we got here. And who knew, right?
Right.
But thank you so much for sharing your story and trusting me and my audience with just your heart, your vulnerability, and your journey. Grace and gratitude. I'm eternally grateful, especially that you flew here in the Chicago weather. It's been interesting.
It could have been worse. I'm just glad it wasn't.
When I tell you, My mother had to drive to Florida because she missed her flight because all the flights were canceled for the storm, and she had a cruise that she didn't want to miss. So when she took off driving from Chicago to Florida, I immediately was like, please, Lord, please don't let you.
Because we just had beautiful weather.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, this is all working to my favor because we're going to go in and I'm going to be able to be outside. And no.
And just like that, life changes.
It's okay.
But I'm so glad that you made it. Continue to be a friend of the show. You're always welcome back. Once you launch your catering business, if you want to give us where we are now, Jim, we'll be happy to share an update. And for those of you out there, Crossroads and Callings, we are live on YouTube and all podcasting platforms. Please share your Crossroad moments with us. And if Lena's story spoke to you in any way, please add her and share, because I'm certain she would love to just hear your feedback and experience some of your love. And until next time, please use your crossroads to get you to your purpose and your calling.